I got another YouTube video for you. I want to keep these smash mouth football videos unpredictable, fun, and enjoyable. So today's matchup is going to be two legendary players, one that's already legendary, one that will go down as the absolute best to play football at the quarterback position. It's going to be Dan Marino, the legendary Miami Dolphin, versus Philip Reed, who played in San Diego and Los Angeles. So it'll be the Miami Dolphins versus the San Diego LA Chargers, the best to never win a Super Bowl. And I think you know why I'm calling it the best to never win a Super Bowl. Now, Dan Marino got picked in the 1983 NFL Draft. And I think he was selected number 23, number 24. I can't quite remember what pick, but he was picked. And he almost waited almost a day and a half to get selected. There were stories coming out that he was going to be a 49er, and then they picked two players. So he wasn't a 49er. He thought he was going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. That didn't happen. He thought he was going to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That didn't happen. And after almost waiting and waiting and waiting, he finally ended up becoming a Miami Dolphin. Now, when he became the quarterback of the Miami Dolphin, his rookie season, he set a record that would get broken some 15 years later by Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and of course Tom Brady. He threw the most interceptions his rookie season. Yeah, I guess we're gonna go across the street because this light is unpredictable. But like I said, he threw the most interceptions. He threw like about 5 to 10 interceptions, and he made like about at least 3 to 4 touchdowns a football game. And when he was at his absolute best, it was 5 to 6 touchdowns a football game. He was around 6 feet. 6'1", 230 pounds. So he was big, he was strong, he was fast, and he could kill you on offense. He could play on both sides of the football. He could run inside the end zone, and he could throw the football. But he would lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He would lose to the Seattle Seahawks. And then his second season, he greatly improved. And then his third season, he made it to the Super Bowl. Like for the first time in 3 seasons, he made it to the Super Bowl, but it was against the San Francisco 49ers, and he lost that football game. Even though they made an incredible comeback, he lost the Super Bowl. Something that every quarterback tries to do in their football career. However, his 4th season and his 5th season, they would make it to the playoffs back-to-back. And every time he played against his division rivals, which were the New York Giants, the New York Buffalo Bills, and of course, the New England Patriots. He would beat everyone else, but when it came to two teams, he would always lose to Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers, and he would always lose to John Elway and the Denver Broncos. Every time he played those two, he would always lose. He would beat everybody else, but he would lose to them. And then by the time we got to 1986, 1987 NFL season, he had now been in the NFL for about 7 or 8 years, and he almost made it back to the Super Bowl. But again, he would lose to his division rival in devastating fashion. And by 1989, 1990, he was injured. Like, he was really injured. At that point, it was now like 10 years of professional football. And for 10 years, he was upset at the fact that they would fire coaches, hire coaches. They would trade players. And his game began to decline. Like after 10 years, his game began to decline. And then by 1992-1993 season, they would make it to the playoffs back-to-back. They would win the first game, but right when it got to the second game, they would lose because at that time period, the New York Buffalo Bills, for whatever reason, made it to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row, and all he had to do was knock them off. Instead, they beat him. And, you know, he was frustrated. And then by the 1996-1997 season, he was trying to demand a trade, but they would not trade him. And he was just frustrated. At this point, it was now 15 years, and he couldn't seem to understand what was the whole point of losing football games. Finally, in 1998-99, they made one last push to the playoffs. He played injured. They had a young up-and-start quarterback. Same thing that happened to Joe Montana. And by 2000, he played his last and final season, which marks the longest any football player in history would play, you know, damn near 16, 17 seasons. You know, retiring at 36, 37 years old. And to have your whole career from beginning, middle, and end with you not winning a Super Bowl, and the only time you gone to a Super Bowl and you lost, it was very heartbreaking. Like, he had got compared to Peyton Manning and Eli Manning's father, who played 18 years of professional football and could not win a championship. You know, he won MVP. That year that he won MVP, he didn't even make it to the Super Bowl. And the first 6 years, he would make it to the playoffs, but he always had a hard time trying to win the second playoff game or the third playoff game, so he ultimately kept losing. And it was frustrating to him to have to end his career as the best quarterback, but to never ever be able to make it back to the Super Bowl. You know, so it was very painful because he only gone to the Super Bowl once, but he played like 16, 17 years and could not win. He could not go back to the Super Bowl. You know, it was like he was cursed. Now we get to Philip Reed. Philip Reed was selected in the 2004 NFL Draft. He was overall pick, but the problem was he got sent to the New York Giants because that's who he wanted to play for, and they swat trades. Eli Manning went to the New York Giants because he didn't want to play for the San Diego Chargers, so he ended up being traded from New York to the New Orleans Saints, where he played 2 years backup underneath Drew Brees. And they already had a quarterback in Drew Brees, and they didn't need Philip Reed. And once Philip Reed saw that after 2 years of him sitting on the bench as a backup quarterback to Drew Brees, he got traded to the team he thought he should have been traded to in the first place, which was the San Diego Chargers. Now, he would play as the actual quarterback. Now, to me, he's Tom Brady that never won a championship. Everything that Tom Brady does, Philip Reed does the same thing. A football team could be down 15, 20 points, and he can take a team that's down and come back. His legend started in San Diego. It started with them late in the third quarter, and he took them all the way from being down 15, 20 points. They rallied, they came back. I can't remember who they played. I think it was either the LA Rams or the Raiders or one of those teams. Then he won one game. Then he won 2 games, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He won 8 games in a row, and then they made it to the playoffs. You know, they won their first playoff game, and then they got eliminated the second playoff game in his time with San Diego. And then he would do this. Hold on. Sorry about that. We have a truck passing through. So he would do this again because they thought it was a fluke. So he did it 2 years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 years in a row, he would win 8 to 9 games, and they would consistently make it to the playoffs. 8 years they made it to the playoffs, and 8 years in a row they would get eliminated in the second playoff game. And then fast forward into 2013, 2014, he had arguably the best season ever. He put up superstar numbers, but in the end he was injured, and unfortunately they fired the coach, traded some players around, and then by the 2015-2016 season, again, he was injured. And it wasn't until the 2017-2018 season that he would finally get a push back to the playoffs. And they had arguably the best record. And then in 2019, he did something that never happened before. He would win the first playoff game. He would win the second playoff game, only to go up against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots and have a shootout football game that would kind of go into overtime. I mean, if not overtime, then it was just a shootout. I mean, he really came at the Patriots like his life depended on it. And respectively, he lost. And people were shocked that after 16 years of playing with this football team at 36 going on 37 or 38, because he's around the same age as Tom Brady, they were shocked that he was the same age as Tom Brady. He had played the same amount of years or close to the same amount of years as Tom Brady, and he was on the verge of taking the San Diego, or at this point they were now called the Los Angeles Chargers. He was now taking them to a place they had never gone before in their franchise. He almost beat Tom Brady and the Patriots to go to his first Super Bowl. It was a shock that Philip Reed at his old age was able to do it. Now, in their prime, Dan Marino only went to one Super Bowl and put up Super Bowl numbers, but lost to the 49ers. And had it been someone else in the Super Bowl, Dan Marino would have won the championship. Everybody agrees 99.99%. Had it not been the San Francisco 49ers in that Super Bowl, the Miami Dolphins would have won a championship. Even if Dan Marino would never win one 16 or 17 years later, at least he would have won one championship. Philip Reed has played about 16, 17 years and almost won his first Super Bowl. So you could see that without the championships, they're like the same player. And if both individuals had won a championship, they still would have been the same player. So who's better? I would probably have to say that in this regard, this is the only time in a video that I'm going to say it's a dead even tie. Both guys have played 16, 17 years of professional football apiece. Both players have made runs into the playoffs for years and years. Both players won MVP. Both players were the best quarterback on their football team respectively. And both players have something in common. They're the best to never win a championship. And it seems like that Philip Reed might have maybe a year, maybe 2 years left in him before he considers retiring as a Charger and ultimately realizes he's never won a championship. It's like when you're in high school and college, there's this physically, sexually attractive woman that you like, and she rejected you 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, and all of a sudden it's 10, 15 years later, and someone brings up that one time you got rejected by that one girl in high school and college. That's what it feels like for Dan Marino. Every time they bring up the Hall of Fame, he always gets asked, what does it feel like to go to one Super Bowl and lose and go the rest of your career not winning? And every now and then you see that look on his face like, come on, man, that was the past. You know, that was the past. I was in my prime. At least I made it to a Super Bowl. You know, he tries not to be an asshole about it, but it's like it sucks when someone throws it in your face that you played 16, 17 years of professional football and you win, you go to a Super Bowl, but you lose and you never go back. In Philip Reed's case, it's the same amount of years, but he almost went to a Super Bowl. So both guys are good players. They're great players. They're Hall of Famers. But Philip Reed is going to always be compared to Tom Brady, but without the championships. So he's the best to never win. Dan Marino, once upon a time, put up the same type of numbers as a Tom Brady, as a Aaron Rodgers, but never really got a chance to win a Super Bowl, because every time he went against the 49ers and Joe Montana, he always lost. Every time he went up against his arch rival John Elway and the Denver Broncos, he always lost. And you see the same thing happen to Philip Reeve. Every time Philip Reeve goes up against the Patriots and Tom Brady, he always loses. So you can see how there are similarities in their career. So until then, peace.